Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Tea Time the podcast. And on today's podcast, I am just sharing a couple resources with regards to the conversation that I've kind of started sharing and opening up a bit more on my Instagram page around. I don't even know what category to put this under, but I'm going to put it under spirituality, right? And part of that conversation, I kind of putting it in that category because spirituality could mean many different things to many different people. So take what you need and leave the rest. It's not meant to talk about religion or anything of that nature. But I think these are just some general life principles as we navigate life, right? Um If you listen to my last episode, I talked about I'm not sure where the future of this podcast is going, but for right now, I'm thinking the nature of the podcast is probably evolving. Like if I don't put this one on pause or continue this podcast and start a separate one for these types of things, the the podcast is just generally evolving, right? So anyway, this one falls under the category of spirituality, and I believe a lot in spirituality. And when I say that, I personally mean basically the principles of just navigating life here on earth from a spiritual perspective, not religious or anything like that, right? I'm not gonna get into my beliefs in terms of religion, but I may share some beliefs in general. So obviously, I believe in things like manifestation. I believe in things like feminine energy and really understanding those aspects of spirituality and understanding things like divine feminine, divine masculine, karma, karmic. You might hear things like twin flames, etc., etc. And I'm not going to get too much into those things because I'm honestly still in a journey of learning, right? I'm still a student. It's weird to say still a student, like I'm trying to become something, but no, I am just a student of life itself. And why I'm sharing this is so I'm here to share some resources, right? Let me take it back. Start from the beginning again. I'm here to share some resources, but of course I want to give context to some of what I'm sharing and why this is important and why I am incorporating more of this side of myself and bringing it out into my personal brand is because we aren't we're multifaceted human beings. And I feel like I'm at this stage in my business journey that it just doesn't feel right to just address one side. Now, there's no right or wrong to this. Like there are some of us out there who are in the marketing space, the branding space, um, entrepreneurship space, and they just want their content to be solely about work, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that for me it just gets very one dimensional in how I express myself as a creative, right? I probably would have heard me say this before. I identify as a creative, even though I'm a strategist, even though I'm a consultant, even though I am all about the productivity and the productivity hacks and apps and all of those things. I need to express, right? And it's kind of hard to express one side without the other at times for me. Now, I could keep things very strategic and tactical and just come on and literally tell you about 3 productivity hacks, but then I, as a creative, get bored. And I know that there are some of you who follow me, um, and I hate to say that. Hate to say follow me, but I would say I know there are those of you who are part of my tribe and who are interested in that type of content as well, right? Especially as I would have hinted to building another brand or another arm of my business that is more dedicated to wellness. And I just don't see the point, especially as a personal brand, at least right now, to create a separate podcast or to create a separate Instagram page for that kind of stuff. I would create a business page for the wellness brand, obviously, but it's still like I need to create a separate brand per se right now. Probably not. Whenever I, launch that Instagram page for the wellness brand, when that is ready, then I might put more of this type of stuff on that page. But of course, everything links back to my personal brand. Now, it has been 5 minutes of me rambling about that. So, I don't know what I'm going to title this podcast episode, but essentially, I am just putting the questions about manifestation. Do I have any books, any links, any podcasts, any YouTube resources to share? Was one of the questions that I got from Indie Consulting. And shout out to Indie Consulting. Definitely go check her out, follow her, and see all what she's about and what she's up to. She's all about health and wellness and nutrition and things of that nature. So again, it kind of falls in the wellness category. And then we have Samantha, who has a candle business. Again, it kind of falls under wellness. So it is pretty evident that the people who are honestly hearing where I'm coming from, and it doesn't seem like out of place in the things I would typically talk about, come from a certain space, a certain background, like that feel good type of content, health, wellness. I mean, y'all should know by now I'm passionate about mental health. And these are just some of the tools that keep me going. When the masculine, which is the strategy and the tactical and the very linear aspect of achieving, is not quite giving the peace or the return that you might expect, I also have to balance out my productivity side, right? The side that loves the spreadsheets, the asanas, the apps, the do and the to-do lists. And I love a to-do list. I love checking off a to-do list. Like, that's me honoring my masculine side. But when I do all of these things and I don't balance that out with honoring the spiritual aspect and the creative aspect and really everything that's tied to feminine energy, which is rest and creativity and just moving in flow, because sometimes we over strategize and we overthink, and it's like, okay, I did this, I did it in these exact steps with these hashtags, and this is what they said would work, and it doesn't work, is because, yes, you kind of have to pair the strategic side and do the work, but then you also have to allow yourself to know that, hey, I am showing up, I am doing the work, and now I just have to allow the universe, like, and I know some people might not like the universe, they'll say it's God and whatever. I am just using the word universe as a general term, but you can use what resonates for you. I'm not saying the universe resonates for me. I am just using the word the universe as a way to describe, as Abraham Hicks would say, source, right? She uses the term source. So that brings me to my I wouldn't say my first. I have that in my notes as a second resource. So actually, let me pull up where my notes are. Right. Okay. So anyway, so it all actually is relevant to our masculine society of achieving. So whether you're an entrepreneur or a corporate baddie, as they say on TikTok, right? Whether you are, very much a corporate woman, and you might have, your entrepreneurial activities, but some people are more tied to their corporate side. Um, Sometimes things might not be working the way you want it to work, or it's taking too long to happen. And I find that what centers me and keeps me balanced is knowing that everything is working out for my highest good, or that the universe is conspiring. And, we even learn this in Christianity, that you don't understand what's happening in the background. You don't know why God is allowing certain things to happen, or that nothing is happening but God is working in the background, doing his thing, aligning the opportunities, having people speak about you in rooms, or for example, you don't know why so appears to not be happening, but you don't know what's happening behind the curtain. You don't know who's running into who, having conversations with X that spurred a conversation about something else that made you the topic of, like, hey, so is a really good person for X, Y, and Z. And then you get a phone call. Like, those random, quote unquote, random happenings may seemingly come out of nowhere, but that is the magic that is happening when you are doing nothing. And when I say doing nothing, you're actually not doing nothing. You are showing up, you are doing the work, but when you don't see the results in the time frame that you expected to, that is when this stuff is happening in the background, the stuff that you can't see. Like, I like to picture it like a stage. You're seeing the play happening out on the stage, but who is the man behind the curtain with the string pulling, literally pulling the strings, um, and putting things together so that X can play out on the stage, right? So this is where the I go deeper on these concepts when I go down my journey of, like, just releasing it, just trusting it, just knowing that my people are coming, or my ideal client is coming my way. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know where they are coming from, or I don't know where my next income sources coming from. Like, I just don't know. But all I know is that these are the strategies that I need to employ for social media, or these are the strategies that I need to set up for my email list in order to position myself to be ready for the opportunities, or to nurture those opportunities. So that's the masculine side of things, right? But we live in a society that truly respects and, how to put it, boy, that truly respects, and we just live in a masculine world, that the fact that I feel so weird and uncomfortable to even bring up these topics, or talk about this, or wonder how it's being received, also proves that things like mental health, things like femininity and rest, we only kind of seem to be open to the concept of rest sometimes, or the conversation about around rest, because we kind of understand that, okay, if we worked, we have to sleep. Like, we know we have to sleep. The body just naturally does it. That's sleep. But there are 7 types of rest. So when we really talk about rest, or we talk about balance, or we talk about that we can't constantly go, 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 we know it, but we don't act, we still kind of frown upon going easy or going slow. We feel we have to pack our calendars full. So, with all of that being said, I feel like I'm kind of rambling, and I don't really have like a very clear path of what I wanted to say, but I wanted to primarily share some of the links. So everything is linked in the show notes. But the purpose of this episode is to share, but to also give a bit of, I guess, disclaimers or context to some of what I'm sharing. So, first disclaimer is when I'm having these types of conversations that I would just call them spirituality, even though these are two separate topics that I was asked about and that I'm sharing about. One is about manifestation, resources, and the second one is resources around learning about femininity, feminine energy, or divine feminine, right? So, anyway, but I want to categorize this and put it just under spirituality as a term, the umbrella term for this type of stuff for now. I was kind of even thinking, isn't this all fall under just feminine energy? But I feel like that's kind of like a weird way to call this stuff because I feel like manifestation itself kind of fall under the umbrella of divine feminine. You know, it's not very, I don't think it's masculine. Masculine is more strategic, strategy, do, and manifesting is really unlearning, and not entirely unlearning because we do need to have a balance. They're very polarizing. They're two opposites that coexist within every human being, but some are more masculine, some are more feminine, right? So anyway, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so to bring it back, I feel like manifestation falls under the topic, but for now, to keep it safe, this is just a very spiritual conversation. Um, I could talk so much about some of this stuff, but I want to keep this episode super focused. It's already 16 minutes in, and I haven't shared the resources yet. So thank you for being patient with me. Let's get into it. So first of all, I talked about Abraham Hicks, right? But before I get to Abraham Hicks, I'm going to start in the order that I have it in my notes, which is the manifestation links. My first resource that I have for you is the Manifestation Babe podcast. I personally feel like this isn't that much of a resource because I feel like everybody knows who Manifestation Babe is, and I know not everybody knows, but I feel like if you're into manifestation in the least, you would have heard about her and you would have probably peeped some of her stuff already. But hey, some of this stuff is new to everybody. So I want to share my perspectives, right? So even if you know about her, I feel like sharing the context as well is going to help. So, first resource is to listen to the Manifestation Babe podcast. I'm not saying to go buy her courses. I am not saying to go follow her on Instagram. The specific resource that I'm sharing is her podcast. If you want to get pointed in a decent direction of the basics, which is traditionally what you need, is to listen to her earlier episodes. Go to your podcast app, open it, sort it from oldest to newest, and start from episode 1 and binge listen. You don't have to watch, and obviously you don't have to listen to this in one go, right? But if you want a place to start from 1 and come all the way up in that order. I think the first 10 to 20 episodes was part of a challenge and really is good. So it really, like, sometimes you really just need the fundamentals. It's the most basic things that give you the shifts that you need to unlearn. It truly is not about learning, it's about unlearning our conditioning and operating in a masculine world. So I'm just going to read my notes as is. Listen to the earlier episodes to get the manifestation basics. That core foundation stuff is key. Don't worry about the rest for now. I linked the very first episode and you definitely want to start from there and work your way up. I truly appreciate her earlier episodes because it focuses on the fundamentals. Now, the more recent episodes, let's say from episode number 125 onwards, you have to kind of comb through a lot of interviews and other more advanced things to find the simple advice that we all need at times that initiates that mental shift, which is essentially what I just said, but I just didn't want to lose out anything. All right. So I'm just going to take a pause. All right. My second resource on manifestation is Abraham Hicks. Now, this is another reason why I didn't want to share this stuff on stories, because again, you really need to have context. You might search Abraham Hicks and hear, don't listen to that stuff. It's a scam. It's this, it's that, it's the other. The internet, you'll find all sorts of things. I have been following and listening to her teachings for a while before I even came across that negative stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give this any energy to kind of freak me out. You know, it's very easy for a masculine world to brand anything that's not of religion to be something that's, like dark and black and be careful. This is why my disclaimer is take what you need and leave the rest. I am by no means an expert. I am on my own journey, and I trust that you are on your own journey and you're going to use your own intuition to decide what feels right for you. Spirituality is something that is so personal, and your influences in terms of like your background, your race, your religion, all of those things growing up is going to affect how you connect with quote unquote source, universe, God, right? And I mean, you might be inherently, your background might be Christianity, but Christianity might say, yo, that stuff isn't good. But then you might find, okay, I still identify as a Christian, but I feel like I am not getting my full connection that I'm searching for from church or from whatever, right? So that's why I like to just personally, I feel like everybody should just be on their own personal journey when it comes to spirituality, and then you take what you need, take what resonates, trust your intuition, pray on it, and just develop your own relationship, right? So, Abraham Hicks, you can search her teachings on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Music. I have linked a Spotify link to get you going with the basic teachings. And then I also link a YouTube video about getting into the vortex. You have to watch it to really understand what that means, but I'm not going to take up podcast time with that. Now, for those of you who actually go and check these things out, I would love to geek out in conversation about like what you thought. Because I'm very interested to hear what you all think, what you got from it, and things like that. So you know where to meet me. Meet me in the DMs of my Instagram page. Right? So I have 2 links for you on the manifestation. I was really trying to come up with about 3 to 5, but I feel like that's enough. Like these are some solid things to get you going, because I don't want anybody to feel like it's a lot or it's too much or this is too deep. This is a good place to start. Then for the divine feminine links, I have 2 links as well, and I will always come back and not add to this episode, but I'll create more episodes with more links and more context via an episode. So being in divine feminine links, there's one called I titled it a quick lesson on divine feminine and masculine, and then I found a TEDx talk, which I feel is pretty reputable source as well, so you could check that out. Honestly, my learnings of what divine feminine is comes from TikTok. I know it sounds weird, but I just really follow like people's breakdowns of stuff, and I find it interesting. And I mean, I'll be honest, some of these things could just be plain old BS, but this is why I just listen and or I would say I taken the information without judgment, and I allow it to I allow myself to sit with new information, and then of course innately I would know if there's a little too much for me, or this is straight up BS and I'm not really resonating with that, or I like this, I really enjoyed this, I this resonates with me. So if you saw my Instagram stories where I shared a few clips on this person on TikTok, can't remember her name, Chinese or something is her name, where she breaks down these celebrities and she talks about things like twin flame, divine masculine, um, divine feminine. She talks about the inner child wounds, those types of stuff, and even the wounded feminine that needs to be healed. Like she really talks about those things, and that's kind of where I get introduced to the concepts to really like understand it with those real world analogies to kind of draw from for as examples, which I think she does a really good job of, because if you watch the show or you follow it or you follow the art, because it's an art, right? When she did the analogy with Drake, Drake is an artist, right? It's almost like if she were to do movies, she's using movies to explain these concepts. In this case, she's using celebrities or reality shows to break down these concepts. And I appreciate it. It's kind of like when I see people in my field use celebrities as a way to break down branding concepts, right? That is essentially what it is. So some people who don't get this kind of stuff might be like, what the hell is she talking about? Courtney is a brat, da 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 da. Like, no, that's not what she's doing. She's breaking this down the same way a brand strategist or a social media marketer would break down certain concepts by using celebrities, you know? So it's the same thing. It gets people attention and it gets them invested in like listening to what you have to say. So that is it for this episode. And whew, this is different. If you made it this far, then I appreciate you for listening to this episode. And the usual. Subscribe, share this podcast, share it with someone, screenshot, share to your stories, tag me, DM me to continue the conversation. Like, let's keep the conversation going. So, yeah, that is pretty much it. So, go check out these show notes and have a good one.